හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Tuesday, the 7th of November 2023. SLC issues. Newly appointed interim committee hits snag following stay order by appeal court. Parliament unplayable. Parliament heats up as unlikely opponents agree. Safety tweaks. Online safety bill now just a few tweaks away from being furnished to Parliament for legislation. Budget expectation. Apparel industry states their expectation as to what they wish to see when the budget is presented in 6 days.
As exporters, we are appreciative of the fact that the decision to withdraw the suspended VAT scheme has been pushed out to April 2025. That said, in the interim, it is absolutely vital that we develop a cashless refund system.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to today's edition of AdaDerana's English News. First at 9, I'm Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our top stories for the day. The appeal court today issued an order suspending the interim committee appointed for Sri Lanka cricket headed by Arjuna Ranatunga for 14 days. The order was issued following the consideration of a petition filed by the President of Sri Lanka Cricket, Shammi Silva, against Minister of Sports, Roshan Ranasinghe. Addressing the media after leaving the Sri Lanka Cricket premises following the court decision, Chairman of the Interim Committee for Sri Lanka Cricket, Arjuna Ranatunga, said that Sri Lanka Cricket is bound to further deteriorate due to the actions of the Cricket Board.
Yesterday, Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs Roshan Ranasinghe, under the powers vested in him per Sports Law No. 25 of 1973, which is on the control of participants in sports representing Sri Lanka, appointed a 7-member interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket. This committee, headed by World Cup winning captain Arjuna Ranatunga, consisted of 2 retired Supreme Court judges, a High Court judge, an attorney at law and a former president of Sri Lanka cricket. This committee was appointed soon after Sri Lanka's poor showing at the World Cup against other lower-ranked nations, and most notably after suffering a humiliating defeat at the hands of India last Thursday for a second consecutive time after the recently concluded Asia Cup final and following the revelation of a misappropriation of funds by the SLC Executive Committee during the T20 World Cup in Australia last year. The interim committee was also responsible to exercise the powers, functions and duties of Sri Lanka cricket in an appropriate manner until remedial actions are taken by them by conducting the relevant inquiries independently, transparently and with integrity, and to make recommendations and strategic actions to ensure a cessation of such corruption. Later last evening, a 4-member cabinet subcommittee headed by Minister of Foreign Affairs President's Counsel Ali Sabri was appointed to scrutinise the gazette issued by Sports Minister Roshan Ranasinghe, appointing an interim committee for Sri Lanka cricket. The other committee members were Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara, Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manusha Nanayakkara, and Minister of Public Security Tirana Nalas. However, this morning, a petition filed by Sri Lanka Cricket President Shammi Silva against Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs Roshan Ranasinghe was taken into consideration. Appearing on behalf of the petitioner, President's Counsel Romesh De Silva said that despite warnings of the International Cricket Council to Sri Lanka Cricket to operate as an independent institution, the Minister of Sports had made unnecessary interferences to the operations of the Cricket Board. President's Counsel De Silva said that the gazette issued by the Minister of Sports, which states that Sri Lanka cricket was suspended based on Auditor General report revelations, and the other gazette which states that the SLC suspension was made to halt corruption and irregularities, contradicts each other. Romesh De Silva is of the view that an order of suspension issued without an inquiry of Sri Lanka cricket by the Secretary to the Ministry of Sports cannot be justified. He also highlighted that the President and the Cabinet were unaware of the decision made by the Minister of Sports. He added that the actions of the Minister of Sports is against Section 32, which governs the refusal, suspension and cancellation of registrations of National Associations of Sports, and Section 33, which is on interim arrangements of the Sports Law Act No. 25 of 1973. Taking the facts presented into consideration, the court issued an order suspending the interim committee for 14 days. The petition will be taken up for hearing again on the 16th of November. Following the appeal court order, Chairman of the interim committee Arjuna Ranatunga left Sri Lanka cricket premises this morning and arrived at the Ministry of Sports.
මේ රටේ මහජනතාව දැනගන්න ඉස්සරහට මේ දේශපාලන බලපෑම් කියන්නේ මොනවද කියලා. මම හරි කනගාටු වෙනවා. මම අද ඇත්තටම කලකිරුණා. මේකේ මට මොකුත් නැති වෙන්නේ නැහැ. තරුණ පරම්පරාවට ක්‍රිකට් ටික නැති වෙයි, රටට ක්‍රිකට් ටික නැති වෙයි. මේ ක්‍රිකට් ආයතනයේ ඉන්න මිනිස්සු ටිකට හොඳ වෙයි. හැබැයි මේ රටේ ක්‍රිකට් මෙච්චර නරකට ගිහිල්ලා ඉදිරි කාලේදී තවත් පස්සටම ගිහිල්ලා යන දවසට ඊළඟ මැතිවරණ එනකොට මම හරියට කියන්නම් මෙව පස්සේ ඉන්නේ කවුද? මෙව වෙනස් කරන්න හැදුවේ කවුද? මේ ක්‍රමවේදේ මම දැම්මම කියන්නේ මම හරි වෙලාවට කියනවා. චැම්පියන්ස් ට්‍රෝෆි එක තියෙනවා. ඒකට අපි තේරෙයිද නැද්ද කියලාත් අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. මට හරි කනගාටුයි ක්‍රිකට් ගැන.
Late in the afternoon, Sri Lanka Cricket President Shami Silva arrived at Sri Lanka Cricket.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා ක්‍රිකට් මණ්ඩලයට ඇඟිල්ල දික් කරලා තියෙනවා. ආපු විගණන වාර්තාවක් අනුව මේකේ ලොකු හොරකම් මැරකම් වෙනවා ස්ථානයක් කියලා. ඒකට අපි ඔය යටත් කරලා ගරු අමාත්‍යතුමා කිසිම ප්‍රතිපාදනයක් අවස්ථාවක් අපිට කරුණු පැහැදීමක් කරන්න ඉඩ නොදී අපිව ඉවත් කරා. ඉතින් ඒක ඉවත් කරපුවාම අපිට තේරුණා ඒක ඊටාම වැරදි සහගත දෙයක් කරේ. ඔය කියන දේවල් අපි කරලා නැහැ. සියලු දෙනාම හොරු හැටියට සඳහන් කරලා අපිව එළියට දැම්මා. ඒ නිසා තමයි අපි ගරු අධිකරණයට ගිහිල්ලා නීතිය පිහිට පැතුවේ. අපිට ඒකට අද උත්තරයක් ලැබුණා.
Meanwhile, Parliament heated up today when the matter for cricket was taken up for discussion. Addressing the Parliament, Minister of Sports Roshan Ranasinghe stated that he categorically told the President that he would not remove the interim committee appointed for Sri Lanka cricket. He said he made the statement to the President when he was ordered to rescind the interim committee appointment. Supporting the Sports Minister, however, Chief Opposition Whip Lakshman Kiriyalla said that the Sports Minister has the right, per the law, to appoint an interim committee.
අපිට දැනගන්න ලැබිලා තියෙනවා මේ අභියාචනාධිකරණය ස්ටේ ඕඩර් එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා මේ දින 14කට සස්පෙන්ඩ් කරලා මේ ඉන්ටරිම් කමිටි එක. දැන් ගරු නියෝජ්‍ය කතානායකතුමනි මෙහෙම යන්න බෑනේ අපේ රටේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාවට. මේක ගැන අපිට ඕන ප්‍රකාශයක්. ක්‍රීඩා මන්ත්‍රීවරයා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඇවිල්ලා පැහැදිලි විග්‍රහයක් කරන්නට ඕන. මේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාව පිළිබඳව අපි ක්‍රිකට් ගැන ලොකු ආදරයකින් ඉන්නේ. දැන් මෙතන ඉන්ටරිම් කමිටි එකක් දාලා ඒක ඉන්ජන්ක්ෂන් එකකින් නතර කරලා කොහොමද මෙහෙම යන්නේ? සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාව අනතුරේ අපේ රටේ. ඒකට ජනාධිපතිවරයාත් වග කියන්නට ඕන. රජයත් වග කියන්නට ඕන.
මේ කැබිනට් එකේදී මේ පිළිබඳව සාකච්ඡා කරපුවාම ජනාධිපතිතුමාත් ඇමතිවරයාත් සාකච්ඡා කරලා ඉදිරියේ ගත යුතු පියවර පිළිබඳව තීන්දුවක් ගන්නවා කියලා තමයි අවසන් කරේ.
ආත් කලක් ක්‍රීඩා ඇමතිවරයෙක් හැටියට කටයුතු කරලා තියෙනවා. ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ක්‍රීඩා පනත යටතේ ඉන්ටරිම් කමිටි එකක් පත් කිරීමේ සම්පූර්ණ බලතල තියෙන ඇමතුමාට. වෙන කාටවත් නැහැ. ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම අර්ජුන රන්තුක තමයි ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාව ගොඩ දාන්න පුළුවන් එක පුද්ගලයා. එතකොට ඊයේ කැබිනට් එකේ කැබිනට් සබ් කමිටි එකක් පත් කෙරුවා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ක්‍රිකට් ඉන්ටරිම් කමිටි එක ගැන හොයන්න. ඒක දේශපාලන ඇගිලි ගැසීමක් නෙවෙයිද?
විසුරුවා හැරීම පිළිබඳව රටේම ජනතාවගේ ප්‍රසාදයක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි මේකට ඔබතුමාලා ආණ්ඩුවට ඇඟිල්ල දික් කරන්න එපා. අද උසාවියෙන් දීපු නියෝගය මේ ආණ්ඩුව ගත්ත නියෝගයක් නෙමෙයි. ඒක උසාවියේ දීපු නියෝගයක්.
මේ අතුරු තහනමත් එක්ක මොකද වෙන්නේ? මට කියන්න ඔබතුමා මොකද වෙන්නේ? ආපහු දූෂිතයෝ ටික, හොරු ටික ආපහු යන ශ්‍රී ලංකා ක්‍රිකට් එක අස්සට.
අතුරු කමිටුවක් පත් කරන්න හේතු වුණේ ඕස්ට්‍රේලියාවේ පැවති 2020 ලෝක කුසලානයේදී වෙච්ච දූෂණ, වංචා, අක්‍රමිකතා එක නීතිමය ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නයි කියලා අවශ්‍ය උපදෙස් විගණකාධිපතිතුමා විසින් ලබා දීලා තිබ්බ මොහොතක අධිකරණ තීන්දුවට ගරු කරනවා. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. බයි එතනින් නැවත දූෂිතයෝ ටිකක් නැවත අද ඉඳලා වැඩ බාර ගන්න.
ක්‍රිකට් පාලක මණ්ඩලයේ හිටපු සභාපතිතුමා. ඔහුගේ දූෂණ අක්‍රමිකතා ගැන අපි මෙතන දවසක් විවාද කරනවා. ඒතකොට මේ පුද්ගලයා අධිකරණයට ගිහිල්ලා තහනම් නියෝගයක් ගන්නවා ගරු ඇමතුමා පත් කරපු කමිටුවට විරුද්ධව.
ඔතන වෙලා තියෙන හොරගම් හොයන එකට වෙනම කමිටුවක් දාන්න. ක්‍රිකට් බෝඩ් එක ක්‍රිකට් පිළිබඳ දන්න අයගෙන් ඇති කරන්න. එක ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩකයෙකුට විතරක් හිටපු. ඔහු ලෝක කුසලානේ මේ රටට ගෙනත් දෙන්න නායකත්වය දිනු ක්‍රීඩකයා තමයි. හැබැයි එක්කෙනෙක් මත විතරක් ඩිපෙන්ඩන්ට් වෙන්න එපා. ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩකයින්ගේ අතරේ ලොකු සැකයක් තිබ්බා. ඒගොල්ලෝ දැනගෙන ඉන්නවා පසුගිය කාලේ ලැබිච්ච නඩු තීන්දුවත් එක්ක මේකේ තීන්දුව මොකද්ද කියන්නේ. ඒ අය කියන්නේ නෑ මේකට දිගටම කරගෙන යන්න හම්බුනොත් අපි ඇවිල්ලා සහයෝගය දෙන්නම්. ආරාධනා නොකරන්නේ මේ ආරාධනා කළා. ඒ වගේම තමයි ක්‍රීඩා පනත. ක්‍රීඩා පනත ගේන්න මම කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා. ඒතකොට කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ සාගල රත්නායක මහත්මයාගේ සභාපතිත්වයෙන් කමිටුවක් පත් කරනවා මේ පනත ගැන තව දුරටත් බලන්න. ඒකේ පළවෙනි රැස්වීමට මමත් ගියා. එතනින් එහාට කිසිම සාකච්ඡාවක් තිබ්බේ නැහැ. අමාත්‍යවරයෙක් පනත් කෙටුම්පත් සංශෝධනයක් කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට ගෙනිච්චම ඒක ගැන තව ඕනනම් අධ්‍යයනය කරන්න පුළුවන් අමාත්‍ය අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල අනු කමිටුවකට මිසක් සාගල රත්නායකගේ ප්‍රධානත්වයෙන් තියෙන කමිටුවකට නෙවෙයි.
දැන් ඊයේ දිනේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ ආපුවාම කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය ඇතුලේ වෙච්ච සිදුවීම් මට කියන්න බෑ. ඒක සාමූහික වගකීම මම ආරක්ෂා කරන්න ඕන. නමුත් ජනාධිපතිතුමා ඊට පස්සේ මට කාර්යාලයටත් කතා කරලා කිව්වේ මේ කමිටුව පත් කරපු එක අයින් කරන්න. එහෙම නැතිනම් ක්‍රීඩා නීතිය එතුමා යටතට ගන්නවා අයියා. මං කිව්වා ජනාධිපතිතුමා ක්‍රීඩා නීතිය නෙමෙයි ඔබතුමා මාව අස් කළා කැමති තීන්දුවක් ගන්න. මං කිව්වා මම කිසිසේත්ම පත් කරපු කමිටුව ඉවත් කරන්නේ නැහැ කියලා.
වැඩසටහනක් උදෙසා ඔබතුමා හෙට දවසේ මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ 225 දෙනාටම ආරාධනා කරලා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ අපි ඒකමතිකව මේ ක්‍රිකට් ක්‍රීඩාව නිර්දේශපාලනීකරණය කරන්නට අද මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? අද ඇමතිවරයාගේ ජොබ් එක කරන්න බෑ.
In other news, but staying in Parliament, announcing a Supreme Court determination, Deputy Speaker of Parliament Ajit Rajapaksa revealed today that certain clauses of the online safety bill have to be passed in Parliament with a special majority. The Deputy Speaker also added that certain clauses of the bill are yet to be amended at committee stage and subsequently passed in Parliament with a simple majority vote.
3 5 7 9 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 36 37 42 45 53 සහ 56 යන වගන්ති ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ 84 දෙක ව්‍යවස්ථාවට ප්‍රකාරව පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී විශේෂ බහුතරයකින් සම්මත කළ යුතුය. එසේ වුවද වගන්ති කිහිපයක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණ තීරණයෙන් යෝජිත සංශෝධනයන්ට යටත්ව 3 5 7 9 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 36 37 42 45 53 සහ 56 වගන්ති පනත් කෙටුම්පතෙහි පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කාර්ක සභාව අවස්ථාවේදී සංශෝධනය කරන්නේ නම් මෙම පනත් කෙටුම්පත පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සරල බහුතරයකින් සම්මත කළ හැකිය. ඉහත කරුණුවට යටත්ව පනත් කෙටුම්පත හෝ එහි විධිවිධාන කිසිවක් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවට අනනුකූල නොවන බවට ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය අදහස් කරයි. ඒ අනුව ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ තීරණය සඳහන් කර ඇති සංශෝධන වලට යටත්ව පනත් කෙටුම්පත පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සරල බහුතරයකින් සම්මත කළ හැකිය.
Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers has decided to allocate 10.11 hectares of government land in Hambantota as plots for families that were affected during the Greater Hambantota Development Project. In another decision, Cabinet has decided to award the contract of the construction of the pedestrian crossing on the Marine Drive that is used to enter the Bambalapitiya railway station and the Velavat railway station to the State Development and Design Statutory Corporation. With that, let's take a look at other Cabinet decisions taken today.
The Cabinet of Ministers gave approval to allocate land plots from government land to about 10.11 hectares located in Siribopura, Hambantota to 97 families who lost their homes due to the Greater Hambantota Development Project. So far, 126 plots of land have been identified for residential use. Plots have been allocated for 84 families out of the 97 families who lost their homes. The Cabinet also gave approval to issue legal grants for the said land plots under the guidance of the Land Commissioner General. Meanwhile, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the handing over of the contract of the construction of the pedestrian overhead crossing constructed across Marine Drive to access the Bambalapitiya and the Vellavatha railway stations to the State Development and Design Statutory Corporation, subject to the condition of completion within a period of 6 months. In early October, following media reports, President Ranil Wickremesinghe ordered that a temporary accessway at the Bambalapitiya railway station be constructed within 10 days and subsequently demolish the existing dilapidated overpass and complete the new bridge within 5 months. In the meantime, Cabinet decided to lend 5 acres of land developed by Sri Lanka Land Development Corporation that is located on the Navala Kirimandala Mawatha Road to implement a mixed development project as a public-private initiative. Accordingly, in its first phase, the project will be spanned an area of 2.67 acres and in the second phase, the remaining 2.33 acres of land. Approval was also given to take necessary steps to invite requests for proposals from interested investors. Meanwhile, approval of the Cabinet was granted to a proposal by the President to take necessary relevant actions to initiate the establishment of the Sri Lanka Economic Commission and related units. Following a Cabinet decision to establish a new institution consolidating the Board of Investment and the Export Development Board earlier this year, a supervisory committee on export and imports comprised of individuals with expertise in the relevant fields was established to take necessary actions in this endeavour. In the meantime, the Cabinet approved the proposal submitted by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Finance to submit the Revenue Conservation Order and the orders published by the following gazette notifications per provisions under the Special Commodity Levy to the Parliament for approval. The Revenue Conservation Order was published as an extraordinary gazette notification in August 2023. The gazette notification of provisions under the Special Commodity Levy Act was published in August, September and October.
Moving on to weather news, heavy rains continue to affect parts of the island this afternoon, disrupting the livelihoods of the general public. This has resulted in the Irrigation Department issuing flood warnings for the Nilvala and Attanagalu river basins to remain in effect for the upcoming 24 hours amidst the current inclement weather. Concurrently, amber landslide warnings were issued to several areas in 3 districts by the National Building Research Organisation.
Amidst the continuous rainfall reported across the island yesterday and this evening, several parts of the country continue to remain inundated. Heavy traffic congestion was observed as several areas in Colombo remained submerged due to the heavy rains. Concurrently, sluice gates of several reservoirs including the Rajangane Reservoir, the Angamuya Reservoir, Kalaoya, Udawala Reservoir, Tabo Reservoir and the Murthavela Reservoir were opened, while the water capacities of the Urbokoya, Kalaoya and Attanagaluoya have risen following the heavy rains. The Irrigation Department added that the flood warnings issued to Nilvala River and Attanagaluoya river basins would continue to be in effect for the next 24 hours. Accordingly, the Department of Irrigation urged the people residing in the low-lying areas of the said river basins to remain vigilant for the possibility of floods. Meanwhile, as a result of the floods which emerged amidst the prevailing rainy patterns, several areas including Akurassa, Athuraliya and Hondugoda continue to remain submerged. The situation escalated to the point that 500 individuals residing in 100 houses have reportedly been affected for a continuous period of 2 months as a result. Meanwhile, the Colombo-Badulla main road was temporarily closed in the Batgoda area due to the risk of landslides. Traffic on the Bandarala-Valimad road has been limited to 1 lane due to a landslide. The traffic on the Colombo-Badulla main road in the Batgoda area was also limited to 1 route due to landslides. As such, measures were taken to evacuate 159 individuals in 32 houses residing in the Haldumulla area. Meanwhile, traffic on Colombo Kandy Road was also restricted to 1 lane as a tree had reportedly collapsed onto the road this afternoon. Concurrently, the Department of Railways reported that trains on the Kalni Valley line have been disrupted due to a fallen tree on the rail tracks between Maradana and Baseline Road stations. Further, 16 residences in Horana were reportedly destroyed due to strong winds and lightning. Amidst the ongoing inclement weather conditions, several areas including Colombo experienced fog this morning. Meanwhile, Met Department issued an advisory for thunder showers accompanied by severe lightning to occur at several places in western, central, Sabaragamuwa, Uva, southern and northwestern provinces. Further, the Met Department forecasted heavy rains to occur during the night and in the northern and eastern provinces during the morning tomorrow. As per the forecast of the department, mist can be expected in certain parts of the country including the western, Sabaragamuwa, central and Uva provinces during the morning tomorrow. In the meantime, the National Building Research Organisation meanwhile issued amber landslide warnings to several areas in 3 districts. As such, Level 2 amber landslide warnings were issued to Badulla, Kandy and Rathabura districts and Level 1 landslide warnings were issued to several areas in 5 districts.
Due to continued heavy rainfall, cumulative rain effects, and the soil saturation of the areas, the issued landslide early warning message has been updated and extended to 3 p.m. tomorrow in the following areas. Warning level 2 amber alert warning was issued to Abutale and Haldumulla Divisional Secretary Division Badulla District, Tumpane Divisional Secretary Division Kandy District, Palangoda, Godakavela, Veligepola, Kuruvita, Kalabana, Ratnapura, Kolonna, Opanayaka, Alapatha, Ahaligoda and Imbulpe Divisional Secretary Division Ratnapura District. Warning level 1 watch yellow warning was issued to Katuvana, Valasmulla, Beliata and Okevela Divisional Secretary Division in Hamathura District, Udutumbara and Yatinura Divisional Secretary Division Kandy District, Mavanella, Galigamu and Kegol Divisional Secretary Division Kegol District, Veligama, Mathara Pogravats, Kirinda Puhulwella, Malimbada, Devinuvara, Dikwella, Pasgoda, Aturulia, Mulatiana, Pitabethala, Velipitiya, Kotapola, Tihagoda, Kamurupitiya, Hakpana, and Akurasa Division Secretary Division is Mathara District, Ayagama, Palmadulla, Kiriella, Nivitigala, and Kahawata Division Secretary Division, Ratnamura District.
A 25-year-old involved in the transport of firearms and crystal methamphetamine belonging to a notorious criminal entity was arrested by the police special task force. The suspect was arrested with a cache of weapons at his residence in Negombo. Meanwhile, a 42-year-old was killed during a shootout in Ampara over a family dispute. With that, here's a look at more news from across the island in brief.
A 42-year-old residing in the Ampara Bandarduwa area was killed during a shootout last night. The police suspect that the 42-year-old was murdered due to a personal dispute. Investigations into the matter are currently being carried out by the Bandarduwa police. In the meantime, the police special task force arrested a 25-year-old who was transporting firearms and crystal methamphetamine belonging to a notorious criminal entity. The suspect was apprehended at his residence in Negombo. 2 pistols, a T-56 firearm and a stock of ammunition were also recovered in the possession of the suspect. In the meantime, the Sri Lanka Navy apprehended 3 suspects along with a dinghy carrying Kerala cannabis weighing over 137 kilograms in Jaffna yesterday. Accordingly, the Kerala cannabis seized during a special operation is believed to be over 54 million rupees. The suspects along with the stock of cannabis and the dinghy is to be handed over to the Kites police for further legal action.
Welcome back. Sri Lanka's apparel sector expects more markets to open up via free trade agreements and have thus asked the government to supplement moratoriums to the small and medium sector to repay loans as the debt restructuring program is nearing its conclusion. In our next segment, the budget expectation, the General Secretary of the Joint Apparel Association Forum expressed his views on what the apparel sector expects from the budget that will be presented to Parliament on the 13th of November next week.
JAF is looking for 5 key things from the upcoming budget. The first is in relation to market access, where Sri Lanka needs to be able to compete on even terms with our competitor countries for access to those markets. This includes our existing markets like the EU, the UK, and India, all of which we are competing on an unfair basis against competitors. We also look forward to the conclusion of the China Free Trade Agreement. We believe that China could be a new market and access to that market would be of great benefit to the apparel industry. JAF also recognizes Sri Lanka's application to join RCEP. We see this as an important development in opening new markets for Sri Lanka. The second matter is the question of SVAT. As exporters, we are appreciative of the fact that the decision to withdraw the suspended VAT scheme has been pushed out to April 2025. That said, in the interim, it is absolutely vital that we develop a cashless refund system so that when the scheme is withdrawn in 2025, we do not have serious cash flow impacts. JAF has made its proposals to the authorities in this regard. The third item relates to cost competitiveness. Sri Lanka's costs of utilities, electricity and water now rank amongst the highest in the competitor regions. It is absolutely vital that the method of adjusting prices is transparent and ensures that it is only the true cost of generation of electricity and the cost of provision of water that is passed on to the consumer. The third item is to do with the debt moratorium. As Sri Lanka recovers, right now our SME companies are really struggling in terms of having to meet their commitments under their financing arrangements, and we have made a request that the SME sector in particular is given a moratorium on its debt. Finally, our request has been for the liberalization of shipping. This was in previous year's budget speech, and we look forward to this being followed through because we believe that with that, Sri Lanka will really open up as a destination for transshipment, as a destination for movement of vessels, all of which will make Sri Lanka more competitive in the long term.
Now, in some very good news, Sri Lanka's Pico Trail wins the Best Wider Tourism Project organised by the British Guild of Travel Writers International Awards 2023. According to Minister of Tourism Harin Fernando, Sri Lanka grabbed first place by surpassing 4 other nations that competed in the final. The Pico Trail is a 300-kilometer curated long-distance walking trail through the central highlands of Sri Lanka, one of Asia's best-kept secrets. The 22-stage walking trail takes tourists through some of the finest ecology and mountain terrain in Sri Lanka. The journey, which begins from Kandy, makes its way to Nuwara, passing through Haputale, Hatton and Alla. The first of its kind and a bucket list experience of a lifetime, Pico Trails takes trekking in Sri Lanka to new heights. Moving into stocks news, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed higher again today as a result of gains in financials and consumer staple stocks. The CSE All-Share Index closed up 0.74% at 10,871.81 points, while the S&P SL20 was up 0.80% at 3,071.02 points. LOLC Finance PLC and Browns Investment PLC were the top gainers on the index, rising 8.7% and 5.9% respectively. Trading volume on the CSE All-Share Index rose to 35.3 million shares from 15.1 million shares in the previous session. Equity market turnover rose to 1.93 billion rupees from 780.3 million rupees in the previous session. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to market turnover today, while the diversified financial sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net buyers, purchasing stocks worth 751.5 million rupees, while domestic investors were net sellers, offloading shares worth 1.48 billion rupees. With that, let's have a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies as the day progressed. Sri Lanka's John Keel's Hotel says that it has reported earnings of 6.5 billion rupees in the quarter culminating at the end of September 2023. In other news, Union Assurance, whilst issuing its interim reports, have confirmed quarterly earnings of 8 billion rupees. With that, let's take a look at news from the corporate sector today.
John Keel's Hotels PLC reported sales earnings of 6.5 billion rupees in the September quarter compared to 6 billion rupees a year ago. The net loss was 916.5 million rupees compared to 810.34 million rupees a year earlier. The basic loss per share from continuing operations was 63 cents, up from 56 cents. Meanwhile, for the September quarter, Union Assurance reported a revenue of 8 billion rupees compared to 6 billion rupees from a year earlier. The net income of the company was reported at 434.88 million rupees, up from 297.13 million rupees. Basic earnings per share from continuing operations recorded at 74 cents compared to 5 cents in 2022. In the meantime, Laf Gas PLC reported earnings of 7.1 billion rupees compared to 4.13 billion rupees a year earlier. The net income was 984.24 million rupees compared to a net loss of 757.53 million rupees last year. Basic earnings per share from continuing operations was 2 rupees and 54 cents, up from basic loss per share from continuing operations of a rupee and 26 cents in September quarter last year.
That's all the news I have for you for this evening. Join us again tomorrow at the same time for more breaking news on Sri Lanka's premier English channel. For now, this is Jonathan Benedict signing off with a blessed Wednesday ahead and a good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.